Have you guys ever been in a car and you get seasick or car sick? Well, that's what happens when most people will view some other plane and pilot in VR, which is what you're seeing now. So this is direct capture of VR footage from my helmet. Now, here's the problem. I know where I'm going to look and I know what's happening because I'm engaged in a dogfight. Here I'm fighting with an F-15. But for you as a viewer, it may seem, well, way too jittery because the way I'm moving my head is perfectly fine for me, but for replay, it even makes me kind of sick. The other thing is when you're recording VR, it's not quite at the full quality you might want to see the video at. So here I'm on that F-15's 6, and I am going to get a splash here, of course, but for purposes of making a video, it can be quite frustrating. As you can see, the camera isn't in the center of the screen, it's all over the place. It's not, I mean, I could zoom it in, but it's going to be a bit more pixelated. So to get the viewers the best experience possible, what I do is I do a track replay. Now, every time you fly in any mission, you can save your track file, or if you play in a multiplayer server, the track file gets saved in the multiplayer tracks folder in your DCS world. You can then open that track file and replay your flight. The way a track replay works is it basically lets you, in some cases, position the camera where you want it to be and get external views. So that's how I get these nice external views. Or this is the same fight, but I'm replaying the track so I can actually zoom in with my camera and see what's happening and position the camera to give you guys the best experience possible. No, there's no cheating. It's not changing the flight. That's actually all locked in, but it's just giving you a better view. So here I'm coming in for a landing. And this is, again, back to the VR. This is the original footage. This is not a track replay. The way a track replay will work is every single input you're putting in on your aircraft gets recorded in the track file. Originally, track files were created to debug and troubleshoot problems with DCS World. Because if the airplane was doing something odd, the developers could replay the track and find out what's going on. And it records everything from the smallest pedal push to the smallest joystick movement to every single button you press, everything. And so when you replay the track, it's supposed to play all those inputs one after another. So takeoff, you give it throttle, you pull back on the stick, that gets recorded. You come in for a landing, you pull back on the stick, pull back on the throttle, it lands you. But what can happen is sometimes the track goes out of sync, and then the whole file is corrupt. So here I flew for 30 minutes, and somewhere along the way, I missed a couple of inputs in the track file. On one side is the actual external view I had to record manually by having a separate camera during the entire flight. As you can see, it's coming in perfectly for a landing. But on the right side, I'm not pointing at the runway. It's the same flight, except the right is the track file replay. And somewhere the input was missed, and I ended up slightly off course. And of course, I never land because it records the inputs, which means I crash into a mountain. Here, I'm about 5 minutes into a flight. This is my first or second missile I fired, and I'm defending, and I never pull out of this dive. Even though in the real file, I actually flew for another 15 minutes. Same thing here. I'm just on my way to do a combat mission. That's my first missile I fired, and I'm defending, and I fly over this mountain, and I escape, except because of the track file getting corrupt, I crash into the mountain. So this is one of the challenges I just wanted to show you guys. So I'm trying to figure out ways of making these videos better and figuring a way of trying to think of workarounds, but unfortunately the track replay is buggered up right now. It has been for a while, but it seems to have gotten worse. And no matter what I do, I can't seem to get stable track. Sometimes it'll be at the landing that it'll fail, or sometimes it'll fail, 5 minutes into flying in the mountains. Anyway, guys, there you have it.